welcome to the RoundTable. This is episode 111. I'm Jenny Walker, the social media ministry leader here at Life Church. And this is Mike Hill. He is our lead pastor. And we have a very, very special guest today. She's actually one of our guests that have come the farthest away, I believe. Yeah. All the way across the country almost.
You really don't know that, but...
What do you mean?
You don't know that she's the farthest away.
What do you mean? Yes, I do.
It's a good thing to say.
No, she is. I know that for a fact. She's been our farthest one. Okay. But this is Kim Bedow. Bedow?
Yeah.
I knew I was going to get it wrong. Yeah. I was actually practicing last night.
People usually,
I bet.
It's okay.
Bedow.
It's okay.
From?
Bedow.
I mean, you got to go through
and
the whole...
it's Buffalo, right?
It's actually called Friendship, New York. So we are almost 2 hours south of Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a Buffalo Bills fan?
I am.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow, you've been happy lately.
I know.
You guys have had some
Just
good
lately,
team.
though.
We had a run for a while, and then it disappeared, but now...
Yeah, it's kind of back.
Yeah, you're back.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Why are they not good or something? Or
No,
were they
they're really
not,
good
but now they are?
Josh Allen's their quarterback. Everybody loves him, and they've done a really good job. I mean, they had a run for... I mean, they were the only team that went to the Super Bowl like 4 times in a row and lost.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, but they got there. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you go up to Buffalo ever? I never thought about that.
Yeah. Very rarely, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't usually go up. I mean, now that online shopping is so much easier, it's easier just to shop online. So back in the day when the kids needed school clothes, we'd go to Buffalo or something to shop.
That's the closest?
Yeah, to get anything decent is Buffalo or Erie.
Wow.
Yeah, Rochester is about the same distance. So we're kind of in the middle of all of that. So either direction we go is about the same.
So are you impressed with Niagara Falls?
No, not really.
Why? Why is that a question?
It's not that impressive. Went to, when we would go up, that was one of the things we did is we went to Niagara Falls, and I'm like, it was kind of like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
I'm like,
What do you mean it is impressive?
What?
The Niagara Falls. Listen, this random...
Did you see it?
No, yes, I have. When I was younger, I went in the boat and went under it and wore the raincoat. Yeah, they take you like around it. I don't remember.
The Maid of the Mist.
Yes, or something.
Yeah, I don't think you go under
but
it,
listen,
but you might get close enough to be misted.
The first thing to go over the Niagara Falls was a cat in a barrel, and then a woman went, and she was the first person to go and live over it. So after that little thing that I went on my Google search, then I went on to find so many other people try to do it, but nobody's tried to do it since the 50s or 60s. I can't remember.
Like you just did this search lately?
Yes. Yeah, actually recently.
Researches people going over Niagara Falls.
I was looking at Niagara Falls for some reason, and then I'm like, oh, I wonder who's been over it. And I just wanted to know the weird things.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the nostalgia of you see the falls, then you want to go to the Canadian border, and then you go over there and you eat, and you realize it's way expensive, and you're like, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, but they have good
really
caramel.
Isn't much. Yeah.
Have you ever had their caramel?
Who? Niagara Falls
Canada's? No, Canada's. They have this hard brick caramel. It's so good. You put it in the freezer.
To Canada too?
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
More you know. So wait, why don't you like it? Is it because you're around it?
Nope, it's not that I don't like it. It's just I feel like people find it as this huge thing to come and see, and you kind of see it, and then you're done.
Yeah.
There's not... I feel like it's just something easy and quick, and maybe because I've been there so much.
It's a tourist trap.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
A tourist trap.
Yeah, you get people there, and you look at it and you're like, I don't know, maybe other people impressed. I wasn't impressed. The Grand Canyon, the first look was like, wow, that's cool. Like, how many different views of the same hole can you get? It's kind of the same thing with Niagara. They trapped me. You get there and you see the falls or see the Grand Canyon, and then they're like, oh, you got to take a train up Hermit's Trail, and it costs $20 a person. And then
that'd be cool.
Like, hey, look at this stop. And I'm like,
looks like rocks.
That looks like the same hole. Yep. Okay, let's go to the next stop and the next stop. And guess what's at the top? A gift store. That your kids can't get out of.
You probably can't exit without going through it.
Yeah, you got to go through the gift store and then take a bunch of money from you for stuff that's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's off the subject. So Kim, tell us a little bit about you.
So I live in a little town called Friendship, New York. And when I say little, the local school has, I think, maybe 10 or 11 kids that graduate high school. So my town is really little. My kids actually went to school out of district, but I live on a bee farm with my husband, and my oldest daughter and her husband and the grandbaby live right down the road. They have another daughter that attends HU. And a funny story. So I've only ever been prior to my Taylor coming out here to Indiana one time. And that one time we were robbed.
What? Somebody from New York has never been robbed. They come to Indiana and they get robbed. I mean, the stigma always the same. Go to New York, you get robbed. Nope. Right. Come to Indiana.
Yeah. So that was many years ago. We were on our way home from Oklahoma. We were in Oklahoma City for a horse show. Stopped in, I'll probably pronounce it wrong. So if I offend somebody, I'm sorry, but it's at Terre Haute or Terre Haute.
Yeah, you said that right.
Terre Haute.
That was our stopover point for the night. And they took all of our stuff.
Were you guys, you rode horses, showed horses?
My oldest showed horses.
Wow.
Yeah, from the time she was, I think she started showing when she was 6.
Okay.
Yep.
What discipline?
And she did English and Western.
Oh, wow.
But went to nationals as a Western rider.
Really?
So, yeah.
So Western pleasure?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So she grew up. We thought it was a phase as a little girl. Every little girl loves horses. And at that time, we didn't own our farm. And so I had a friend with a horse and she rode a little bit and it just grew from there. So
wow. How'd you end up in the beef business? Is that always something your husband grew up with?
So my husband always grew up with farming. Like his uncle had just a small hobby farm.
Okay.
He grew up. So my husband has lived by himself since he was 16. And that was his first job, was actually a dairy farm. And he worked that dairy farm from the time he was...
So what did you say? He's lived by himself since he was 16?
Yeah.
Wow.
What happened?
Yeah. Well, his parents had split up when they were young, and his mom, he lived with his mom, and then his mom met somebody else when Shane was 16, and they were getting married and moving in together, and he chose not to move in. Like, he felt like that was weird. So he just stayed in their home that they had. And
yeah, I mean, it's just funny when you say it because you just go by it nonchalantly. Oh, yeah, my husband. He raised himself since he was 16 years old. And I only say that. Can you imagine a 16-year-old today?
No.
Like, hey, here's a house. Just good luck and make it work. So, so your husband at 16 years old kind of started into the
so
dairy.
that was his first job, and you know, it worked out well.
Because dairy's big out in that area.
Yeah.
Is it still big?
Pretty big. Like we have a couple of farms now that have bought out a lot of the littler farms. You know, so that's unfortunate. But so yeah, it's just always, I think, been part of him as far as that goes. It's not anything he was raised on, but he loves it. And so that's how we got into the beef.
So did you meet him while he was 16 years old and living in that house?
No. I met him, how old were we? 20, I think we were 20 when we met. 21 maybe.
Okay.
So, yep. And we started dating. I was very impressed. Like his house was very clean. It was like there were some like the dust bunnies that people, you know, that only people that are anal get obsessed with. But you know, he did a great job. So
that's impressive.
Yeah.
And how did you guys meet? So were you growing up as a farm girl and he's a farm guy and you went and milked cows together and got married?
That'd be really cute.
We actually had just a group of mutual friends and we just had kind of met through them.
Okay.
So, yep.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So I'd actually known him prior to that, but only because like we had mutual friends. So that's kind of how that worked. So,
can we go back to the Terre Haute story? Terre Haute. Well, I
About
can't even say it
robbed?
right. Yeah. So where did this happen at? Was it in your hotel room, your car?
So apparently that was about the time where there were people who had come up with that great idea of intercepting your fobs. You know, they would intercept the fob, the transmission from your fob to your door. And so our horse show, everybody thinks we had a horse with us, but we didn't. Keelan showed a program called IEA through our local university. And wherever you go to show, they supply the horse. So you have to choose out of a hat. And so it kind of makes, it's supposed to make the playing field a little more even. It's based more on rider than horse. So we were on our way home and Terre Haute just was our place that we kind of chose the first day to get to, you know, from Oklahoma City. And so we had rented a minivan because we just had a small car to drive across country. And so we rented a minivan and we locked that door with our fob and didn't think much of it, you know.
Yeah.
And we went out the next morning and I remember opening the hatch and like the little, like, I don't know, the little sunglass holders that run down the center, those were open. And I was like, that's weird.
Oh my gosh.
And then as things start to register, you realize, well, wait a second, like there's just, the suitcase is open. They didn't take the suitcase. They took everything out of the suitcase. It was a bunch of stuff. And so, you know, like we called the police and apparently it had been something that was happening quite frequently there.
Oh, that's nice. They couldn't have told you. Like, hey, there's something going on in our parking lot.
So, they took all of our stuff and, you know, it could have been a lot worse for sure. But like as it set in our way home, I was like, you just feel, it's weird, but you almost feel violated. Like you were
Yes.
inside your
No,
stuff.
I
They've
Yes.
taken your children's clothes.
Yeah.
They've, just
Feel
little
weird.
things like that you don't think of, because we knew we were going to stay. So we packed a simple bag to just take into a motel room,
Yeah.
thinking our car was locked and everything would be fine in there. But
Stay out of Indiana.
Yeah.
Bunch of robbers.
That's the moral of the story. Exactly.
so
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So what are you into now? Do you love the movies? Like, what are you excited about? What's going on in life?
So in life, the most exciting thing is the grandbaby, of course. She just
Okay.
turned 1 last week. And
Aw.
she's the best. We don't do a lot of movies. We don't do a lot of TV. I read a lot.
Do you? What do you
Yeah.
like to read?
A variety of things. I like a lot of true crime.
Ooh,
Or
yes.
like
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a woman thing, I think.
A lot of true crime, a lot of historical fiction, but I really do read a variety of things. But
Okay.
that's probably the biggest thing.
What's the last thing that you read or are reading?
So actually, I finished a book, and I don't even know who the author is, to be honest with you. It was something I picked up on a clearance rack. It was called Moon Girl Farm. It was really kind of a sappy story, but it was decent.
Lone Girl Farm.
Yeah. That was pretty good. But, we don't do a lot outside of the farm. And I know that sounds terrible, but that's kind of the way we like it.
No.
We
Right.
have several groups of friends. We like to ride side by side sometimes on the weekends and do
Yeah.
trail rides.
Right.
But we both work off the farm. So when we get a chance to be home, we just kind of like it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of your oasis. Yeah.
Yes.
Get away and
yes. Unless I'm driving to Indiana to see Taylor. But other
Yeah.
than that.
Which you said is pretty often.
Yeah, probably more often than it should be. I usually am out here, this year it's been a little different because she stayed all summer, but I usually try to come out at least twice a semester. So fall and spring semester. And then she's home for Christmas usually.
I don't think that's too much.
No, my husband
At
does.
all.
My husband does.
Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah.
It's going to take a weekend trip because usually I leave Friday night and I'm back on Monday. So it's like just quick little,
Oh,
it's not like I
yeah.
come out and hang out for a while. So
yeah.
That's
So tell
nice.
us kind of your association with Life Church, because I think that part's interesting.
Yeah.
So you came out with your daughter.
Yep.
She was going to HU, came to Life Church.
Yep.
But now kind of tell us your online experience and kind of what's going on with that, because I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I ended up here, and I think the reason that I ended up staying connected was it was a little bit of a rough time in life at that point in time. But I came with Taylor, or came out to see Taylor, and her friend group came to HU for church, to Life for church that Sunday. And I was actually going to leave that day, and she asked for me to stay to come
Wow.
to church with her. So I did. And actually, Taylor was doing the sermon that day. And I had kind of been soul searching for a while. I just, like I said, it was a little bit of a rough time, and I needed something to speak to me, and it did that day. And I know that sounds a little bit silly.
Doesn't.
I know that Taylor was speaking out of the book of James that day, but I can't tell you what the sermon was about. I can't tell you what it was that made me feel that connection that day. And so from that point, I would log on at home. And then one day, Nick, after I had been logging on for several months, had reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in doing, just kind of being the online campus pastor, which my family laughed. They laughed at me so hard. They're like, what? So I was like, I don't know. I gave him the okay to tell me if I suck and let me just, I will bow out gracefully. I promise. Like I don't. So yeah, that's how it's been. And I've met some great people. I did the Bible study this spring.
Oh, yeah.
Or winter, I guess it was, with some girls. And it ended up being a very small group, but I made some great connections through there. And that I still keep in contact with, and, just social media or over anything like that. But so,
Did it
yeah.
start out big? Was it the grow night? So it started
Yeah,
out with
it
the
was
30
really big.
women,
Yeah,
and
I
then
was
you had
gonna
to
throw up when they told me that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want to. And it ended up being very small. And I was okay with it. At first, I was a little bit, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do wrong? Because I never had that many that actually came. It was like, I think the most was like 15 maybe, like the first night. And it kind of dwindled down from there. And then Kaylin, my oldest daughter, she was like, Mom, it doesn't matter if there's 3 people, if there's one person, obviously that one person is meant to be here for you to meet.
Yeah.
So it was great. And that's how it ended up, and that we've made some good connections and things like that.
Yeah. So can you tell me, because I honestly don't know. So do you have a home church and online as a supplement, or do you do online together with your family? Like, how does that all work?
So I do not have a home church. I've not been, I don't really even know what to say as far as the correct. We've never been people that went to church. You know, I didn't grow up in a church. We lived in a country growing up, and there was a little country church like just down the road from us. My mom grew up in a church, and I think she probably would have taken us on Sundays to the little church. My dad and his family never did. It wasn't anything I ever recall anything them talking about, but my mom didn't drive, and Sundays were at grandma's. And so she had preferred to go there with us, you know, because otherwise she would have been home. And I think that was part of it. And so growing up, I didn't really think much of it, I guess. It wasn't anything that was part of our life. And my mom, harvest dinner, we'd go to harvest dinner at the little church, but that was really all there was.
Right.
And I think looking back, it seems a little funny to me, especially on my dad's side, because when my Graham's parents, so my great granddad and my great grandma, when they settled in there, it's called the Haskell Flats. It's a little tiny area, like in Portville, New York. My granddad actually built a church. And so the church still stands and people still use it. And there were 6 families. And so the 6th family, there's the stained glass windows. And so their last name is in that stained glass window.
Wow.
And so looking back, I've always thought it was kind of funny that didn't carry over, where did the disconnect end? But growing up, it wasn't really ever anything I really even knew. So it was very indifferent for me,
right.
And so then in 21, that's when I came to Life Church. It was actually Halloween of 21 is my first time here. It was the first day that I was here. And at that point in time, I had actually been attending church with my mom at her church because my dad passed away very young. He was 49. And so my mom, once he had passed away, then she kind of got to where she was going to church. And to this day, she still doesn't drive, and so she would ride with somebody to church or whatever. And so we would attend, your bookends, your Christmas and your Easter bookend days, because she would ask us to. But it was never anything that, I don't know, we didn't feel compelled to go because it wasn't anything we grew up with. So then, like September of 21, things got a little crazy for me. For a short period of time, and I thank God for that. But I really needed something. I had some mental health issues, and so I reached out to her one day and just said, there's got to be something there. I need to reach on to something. I need to hold on to something. I need to do something different because what I'm doing now isn't working. And so I would attend with her. I went with her for probably 5 weeks or 6 weeks before I was out here for that weekend. And it was like I would write down the scriptures that the pastor would say, and I'd go home and I'd try to study them and I'd look at them up. But because it's never been part of who I am, it's very confusing. It's very hard for me to understand what they're saying or what I'm supposed to be getting out of it. And so, but I persevered. I kept going with her. And my plan was just to go back, when I got home that weekend. And she actually came with me that day. She was here the day that we came also. But there was something that I was looking for, something in that relief, something that I needed when I came here that day. And so after that, for several weeks after, I still went with her. Church at home starts at 9. So I was able to catch the second service online.
Oh, wow.
So I watched that for a little while. And then I just found that I felt like I was getting more from here online versus trying to go there and sit. I kind of miss sitting in that pew, but it doesn't matter where I sit as long as I know that I'm getting something from it and I'm feeling, like it's being purposeful for me. So, yeah. So it's funny because you asked if it's grown with my family, and it has, Kaylin watches, she logs in every Sunday also. Sometimes she logs in just to say hi in the group chat, but she's actually sitting right next to me. But she feels like if she doesn't say hi, then people are going to think she isn't there. So she'll log in and just to say hi. And then, we have a neighbor, and that's a whole other story, but his name is Otis. And sometimes he comes, and when he stays at our home, he'll often stay with us in the wintertime because his home is just a little shack. But in the wintertime, it's cold. So he'll sit and he watches too. And so, yeah, it's kind of grown, and it's fun because, neither of our families, my husband or mine, grew up in the church. And I find that, he'll come from the barn now and to sit and watch and, bring different things up that have been discussed in the sermons. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been fun. It's been fun to watch it grow. I feel like it's been this huge sense of, I feel like I've found someplace I belong, even though it's 7 hours away.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's how.
Wow.
And I think that's part of the misconception about online, like in general. Like, so online a long time ago started in the churches for a viewing experience for people that would miss a Sunday. Right. And so when I went to Nick and said, hey, like, I want to do online. I said, but I don't want to do online as just a viewing experience for people who miss church, like they're on vacation or they're somewhere else. And like, I want to give it opportunities to expand, like places where like that, like logistically, it makes sense for you guys to do church in your home, and you can do church in your home. And it is viable, just as viable as it is walking into a church on a Sunday morning,
For sure.
and gives you opportunity to connect in ways that is real community, right? Like,
Yes.
I think that's the other misconception, that the only real community can happen if you're like this,
Right.
right? But you have experienced what Nick was shooting for when we put all this together was you can't experience real community be online and
sure.
have real impact in that way.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting to hear you talk about that, because I think there's this push for people that, well, if I'm not in a building, I'm not really going to church.
Yes.
And what you're saying, and I think this is helpful for people, because especially as an example, when you go out west or when you go in a lot of rural communities, there's not a lot of choices.
For sure.
There's not a lot of opportunities, so for you to even go to church, you have to drive hours. Like when we're getting ready to go out to Montana next week. And so like when you're out in Montana, it's not like you just drive 20 minutes down the road or 40 minutes down the road to a church,
Wow.
but it's just not close.
Yep.
And you're in these very rural communities. And so online giving an opportunity for families or friends to be able to come together and do church and have a real viable option to be connected with a community.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. So, and can you talk a little bit about to the small group, like you were saying? So, just so people know, so that's the other thing we've been talking about is how do you create virtual community through small groups, right? And so I think you were one of our first ones.
Yes.
You were kind of the trial.
Yes, she was the first one.
For that. And
Yeah. So Nick had gotten me set up with the Right Now app, and that's how we did small group was through that app. I chose a study, and it was nice because it had a video, but it also gave me like a study guide so I could at least prepare myself. And I told the ladies the very first night, like, I am not versed in the Bible. I am not there's going to be somebody in this group that can do that a whole lot better than I am. Like, I solely wanted to be that person to bring them together and to learn from other people that I think would have had more experience in that. And so I feel like that's what we did. Her name was Lindsay Goss, Goss.
Yeah.
And she was so good at mentoring throughout. And she wasn't able to attend every night, but she would give me her point of view on the scriptures that were in the study for the night. Like, I could watch the video and I could give my opinion on what they were teaching me, but I couldn't educate in the Bible itself because I had never been educated in it myself.
Right.
But I feel like bringing those people together and at least giving people that opportunity to grow or to let me grow, so I was thankful for that for myself, for sure.
So can you talk a little bit about, so you said growing up, like church was not an important part of your life. And then you get to this place where you're like, I need something. Right? I think that's interesting though. So if church wasn't a part, when you got to that place where you felt like you needed something, what was the draw to church? Like, what was the draw? And then maybe what has God done since then? Because you said Halloween of 21?
21 was my first day here. Yep.
To where you are today. Because that's pretty big to get to the point where you're like, I mean, we didn't grow up in church, not really involved in church.
And doing small groups.
I'm online now.
Yeah.
I'm inviting friends. I'm doing an online study. So can you kind of take us through that? Like, you didn't grow up with it, but there was this journey that's got you to the place today.
Sure. As far as the online thing, I'm always up for a good challenge. I might not be good at it. I'm okay to be called out on that. But so growing up, and it wasn't that church wasn't something I even thought about, because it wasn't something that was brought up in our home. It wasn't something, whether you went or didn't go, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, there were a couple of times where, like when my dad passed away, he was very sick for a short period of time. And I had asked, and I don't know even then if I was talking to God. I didn't say that's what I was doing. I was just basically hoping for a sign, something to say it's time to let him go or it's time to keep him here. And I got that day. And in my eyes, when I got that sign to say, it's time to take him off life support, it was this huge wash of relief. It's hard to explain. I can remember the nurse like it was yesterday. And the information she gave me that made me realize it's time to talk to my mom. My mom, she moved right out from her home to with my dad and getting married. And so she's never been super independent.
Wow.
And so in my mind, I have this huge sign or whatever that it's time to take him off that life support. And I honestly thought it was because he was going to make it, because he was our breadwinner. He worked 3 jobs. We grew up very poor. And he's the one who kept us going. And so I thought, well, how can he just be taken away? Because that's not how this can work.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen if that were to happen. And so when that sign came and then he ended up passing away, it wasn't like I was mad at God, because it wasn't him that I was asking anything for.
Yeah.
I was like, holy moly, what do we do from here?
Yeah.
I was young. My siblings were even younger. My brother was still in high school. And so I think throughout life, there's been a couple of times like that where, God is like hitting you in the head saying, nope, this is where you need to be. But because of my ignorance and the fact that I wasn't brought up in that, it wasn't what I saw that as, And so you fast forward many years. I've got my kiddos. We transferred schools. My youngest was in 5th grade. My oldest was in 8th grade when we pulled them out of the school that they were in and put them in another public school about a half hour away, which is connected to community, Houghton community. And I don't know if it's a Houghton college. It's another Christian college. It's very little. But of course, their community goes, if they don't go to the private school there, they go to Fillmore School, which is our public school. But I found a lot of people there who, they were just what I would call churchy people. They went to church a lot. They weren't afraid to talk to you about God or this or say, we'll pray for you, whatever. And I was okay with it. I was indifferent to it.
Right.
But I saw things in people there that I hadn't seen, a couple of times when I had gone with my mom to church, I would know people who had been going to church their whole life, but they weren't very nice. And I would think to myself, I'd be like, say things or do things. And I would be like,
you didn't want to be like that.
I was thinking to myself, I don't understand how, I don't know how this whole Christian thing works because I've never been taught it, but I'm pretty sure this isn't it. And so, I would just stayed away. I just shied away from it. And then when my Taylor got sick, she had her first surgery, senior year, fall, winter, I don't know, 2020. It was in 2020, just before COVID, I think. I don't know. It feels like it all ran together. I had the best group of community from our school who, on the day of her initial surgery, she had a tumor and we had to have removed and it came back. But just reach out to me and, they prayed for me and they prayed over me and the messages. And I just, at that point in time, there was like this little glimmer in my head that said, am I missing something? Am I not, And so from there, a lot of Taylor's closest friends, they grew up in the church. And so we met parent friends, just because of her and travel sports and things. And so I started to get exposed to that a little bit more. And I started to find people who didn't have those negative feelings that I felt like I was getting from some other people that I just met in general, know? And so I work with this lady who, she lives in Houghton also. She's a PA. And one day we were talking about my neighbor that I said lives in a shack. And, we've kind of taken him under our wing. And she said, she says, you might not call yourself a Christian and you might not talk that talk, but you definitely walk that walk. I just want you to know that. And so from that point forward, I just feel like I've gravitated this way.
Yeah.
And then when I had some, like I said, some issues in the fall of 21. And I knew at that point in time that reaching out to those friends, and they'd pray with me, I needed to go someplace where I could at least try and figure that out. And so that's why I went with my mom. I felt more comfortable with her than going with, people to their church, not knowing anybody there. Because I went to the church right downtown, and there's like literally 10 people that go to that church, and I know all of them, and so I was more comfortable going there. So yeah, that's how I ended up. And then that day I came here and Taylor spoke. There was just something that resonated in me that day, and that's how I ended up to keep coming back. And you asked, what has changed since then? And I think the biggest thing that has changed is my sense of peace. I can find that, I can sit and I can talk to God now and feel like I know what I'm supposed to do, or at least the answers, whether they're what I'm looking for or not. I feel like I can, whatever comes at me, I can at least, I can get there with a sense of peace, and like I'm supposed to be, at least walking this Christian life, even though I'm not quite educated in it yet, because in my mind, I can see what that life is supposed to be like, and how you're supposed to be with people, and how you're supposed to, give back and love people. And I don't know if that makes any sense, or if I'm just rambling, but I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, I think that's a pretty obvious transformation, though.
Yes.
Like, to be at a place where it's like, because I think that's more common than people think. Just grow up indifferent, not around it, not against it, not for it, just not around it, right?
Yep.
Like that, and that God allows certain things to happen in our lives that are essentially like, hey, some of the things you described, like, hey, I'm here, I want to talk, want to be around.
Right.
And then to the place now where, you're on that journey. And can you speak to any, like, have there been certain moments where, like, through messages or through certain things that have happened that you've been like, wow, this is a real indication that, like, God is real, Jesus is in my life, and these things have been other than the peace part of it? Have there been other pieces you've been like, yeah, this is starting to make more sense?
So I don't think there's been anything that's been huge that I've been like, oh my goodness, but I feel like my transition and getting to where I'm at now has been very slow. I pray every day that I can find a community at home also, so that I can, there's going to come a day like when our little Evelyn, our grandbaby, we want her to be in a church. I feel like she needs that. And so I don't know if there's been anything that's been like that aha moment where I've been like, yes, but I can say that the transition has been slow, but it's also been, when I do find things are hard, and praying, for clarity on certain things, whether it's for myself or for a friend, who just went through some traumatic experiences, and being able to pray to somebody and ask somebody for at least clarity for myself to be able to support them and feel like I've been given that, to feel like even if it's not exactly what I'm supposed to do, at least I have the grace. I've been given the grace to try and fumble my way through that, and at least be able to feel like I can support in some way. So I wish there was like that big aha moment.
Oh, no. And again, I'm not even saying like everybody has to have this, like I was here and it's completely different. I just think that there are, I always call them stakes in the ground. Like they're just stakes in the ground that someday when you look back, you're going to be like, oh, that and this time. And as I was growing, slow or fast, it's like, these are some things that like, wow, this made a difference. And this was something that changed. And so, I was just curious if there were some of those things.
There isn't. I enjoy, daily trying to navigate my day. I'm a nurse. And so some days are so trying.
I bet.
And so I know that now, looking back, most of those days I would be more aggravated with people, where now I feel like I have more empathy, which I know sounds terrible. It's coming from a nurse. I really should be empathetic, but sometimes you're just like,
people are trying.
Moly. And so I feel like my view on things are just different, so it gives me more more grace for people anymore. So
Yeah.
after nursing for 25 years, sometimes
Wow.
it gets a little crazy. So
Yeah. Here's an off the subject question,
Okay.
but I just want to pick your brain.
okay.
So, what do you think about the idea of house churches? So, you said you want to find a church someday. What do you think about the idea of your home? So you listen to a message, and then there's a group of people that come and listen together, and then you guys are a community of people doing church together.
I think that's a great idea. I like that idea. I think that would be good for a lot of people. They'd feel more comfortable maybe sitting in a home versus going to a church where they might not feel that they're as welcome. And that would be a good starting point for people, I think. I think that would be something that a lot of people might be able to at least get started on their journey, and feel like it's not maybe as intimidating as walking into a church or sitting in a pew with a bunch of people that they're not really sure. Because obviously, if you're coming to my home, you know me somehow, there's that connection already.
Right.
And so I think that may be a good way to get somebody started in realizing, that.
Because that's what we're trying to explore, for people just like you're far away but feel connected.
Yeah.
How do we help, like maybe even the next step, the next step of saying, like, how can we equip them to be able to do not just themselves online, but how do we help those people create a house church type environment?
Yeah.
And we're still in the process of talking, is it viable? Is it something they would really want? Is it something that's helpful? And how can Life Church help in that process? Those are the things so I was just curious for you, in the area you're at, you've been watching online, what would that, if you think that that's a viable thing based upon what you're doing today?
I mean, she's already kind of doing it with Otis. Like, you've got one.
Yes.
So, I mean, it sounds like it.
Yeah. And I know, just say, people with my husband, for instance, he grew up in Friendship. And so a lot of those people, he's known for many years. And so for somebody like him, maybe he's not as comfortable going to that church only because he doesn't want to be looked at as, oh no, all of a sudden you're showing up or whatever. Because sometimes I feel like people are like, oh, I'm so happy you're here. And then they wonder why are you here now?
Yeah.
Right. And so for somebody like him who might not be quite as comfortable going into the church yet, but at least to get their feet wet per se, to get them to at least experience a sermon and see if something starts to resonate and maybe, pull them in that way.
Yeah. Because I think that, we've always explored the both end because we think both have viability. Like, we think that doing church like we do is important, but we also think that there's, an ability to do it at a smaller level, inside of a home, and so we're just praying and exploring, like, what does it look like and how can Life Church come alongside of people and help them be able to do it? Because I think you have to be diverse. I think moving forward, if we're going to continue to reach people, right, you're going to just have to be diverse. And I don't think for a younger generation, it's even that big a deal to watch it on a screen.
Right.
Which seems weird to me, but I don't think it's weird for them to sit there and watch it and participate and feel like they're a part of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So would you have any advice for us as from a viewing experience standpoint, as a person who watches online, how to better support people who are watching online?
I guess I don't know if I would have any advice. I feel like the community online really interacts well. And so I really like that. And I look forward, there are certain people that will, they'll say hello to me. It's just like when you walk into a building,
right. It's like
and
walking
they'll see
in a
that I'm
church.
already logged in and they will already say hello. So for me personally, I think right now everything's going well.
Good.
But maybe it's because I haven't had much experience, but I enjoy, getting to know people at least virtually and making those connections. So
awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So Taylor, how did she was it her friend that had found Huntington, and why did she choose a Christian school?
Yep. So Taylor's best friend from high school had a connection to HU via the soccer coach. And I don't know, Mike and I talked a little bit about this before we started. I'm not sure that connection. He was connected to Houghton College in New York somehow. I don't know if he was a coach there, and I don't know if she went to camp, but there was a connection prior. And that's how she ended up out here her freshman year.
Okay.
So Riley came to Indiana her freshman year, which was the fall of 2020. So we're talking, they started college during COVID. Taylor stayed in New York, and she did go to college. We were still very shut down. And so it was kind of a lonely thing. She talked to Riley all the time over FaceTime and social media or whatever, and met some people out here. Finished up freshman year in New York, and then New York decided that all New York State schools required the COVID vaccine to attend.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so she chose not to. She didn't want to do that, and we knew we had to figure something else out. Because even virtually, even if you didn't go to campus, they required the COVID vaccine.
That's ridiculous.
And so that's how she ended up out here. Because of Riley. Riley was already out here, so we talked to admissions here. She had changed majors that year also. What are we looking at as far as a time frame? What credits can we transfer over? And so she's really worked her tail off these last couple of years to make sure she still graduates in this coming spring. She started off as a business major and ended up with a social psych major. So,
whoa, social psych.
And so she's really worked her tail off. She's done summer classes every year. She's done, between 18 and 19 credits each semester, and has done very well. And so that's how she ended up at HU, because of Riley, and they didn't require the vaccine. So, I don't know. And I said to Mike, at least out here, we knew she knew one person.
Yeah.
And so at least that made it a little bit better, because 7 hours isn't far until you send your last child,
your
7
baby
hours away.
Yeah.
So, and then it makes it a little harder. So,
have you seen a change in her since she's been here, like with her relationship with God?
Yes, for sure. So,
because it was non-existent before.
So, like I said, when she was going to school in high school, a lot of her friends went to like the bigger church in our area. And so she had been exposed to it greatly, and I had said to her, because the school she attended in New York was not a Christian school. And I'd asked her, how do you feel about this? You have to take your theology classes. You have to, X, Y, and Z. And her answer was simple. It was, Mom, we don't know anything about it, but I guess there isn't any reason not to learn about it and make our decision from there. So, but she's kind of a strong-willed girl. So she, strong-willed's a good answer.
Yeah.
Babies. I think the babies of the family are.
Yeah. She's got red hair. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it too.
Something to do with that. But, so yeah, she came out here, and I have seen a huge growth in her. She volunteers at the Love Works program at the chapel in Fort Wayne, and she absolutely loves that. She does quite often Bible studies with her friends at school.
That's amazing.
It was all her doing. It wasn't anything that we said, this is probably something you should participate in.
Yeah.
So, yep. And, Kaylin at home, like I said, she attends every Sunday with me, whether she's at her house or sitting next to me. So, yeah.
The trickle effect that it has. Like if Taylor wouldn't have come here, like where would you be? You know what I mean?
Sure.
I see in your life a lot of moments where God had his hand in, and you said it was a long process. And I feel like that might have had to have been that way for you to get where you are today.
For sure. Yep.
It's just neat to see that.
Yep. Yeah. So
if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self advice, do you have any advice for your 18-year-old self, or maybe to younger people? Yeah, do you have any advice?
Yes, for sure. So I think my biggest advice, 18, 20, whatever, that age group, my biggest advice, especially to my girls now that I'm here, that where I'm at, is, never be afraid to be that person that goes and makes yourself acquaintances or friends with the person that doesn't seem to be the in crowd. And I think my girls are very good at that. But I think that's my biggest piece of advice is that, you guys bring people here because everybody has a story. And I believe that that story has shaped them to where they are. And sometimes those stories are battles that they're fighting. So my biggest advice is to never look at somebody by their cover.
Yeah.
And I wish I had known that more growing up, And I think that sometimes, you ever see those memes that, everybody's running away, and there's one person going the opposite direction. He seems like the crazy one when really it's that cliff ahead of them. Sometimes you need to be that person going in the opposite direction to stand up for what you believe in. And you might not always be agreed with, but if you're standing up for what you believe in, then I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, good. Most influential person in your life?
My husband.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
My
sweet.
husband is the greatest person. I don't know where we'd be without him. He stands by me, even through my crazy times. I didn't talk a lot about my little mental health issue in the fall, but without him, I don't know where I'd be. He's the hardest working person who has the biggest heart and loves his family more than anything. And if there's a day that I can be anywhere near as great as he is with our family, it'd be a good day.
Wow.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
How did he help you through that time?
So I think, it was a solid 3 weeks that I had a real mental health issue. I canceled a vacation, and I was glad I had it scheduled because I needed that time at home.
Yeah.
But it was, whatever I needed in that day, even though he'd still go to work, he never doubted me. He never said, you just need to get beyond this. He never made me feel like the point where I was absolutely losing my mind, that I was losing my mind.
Right.
He supported me. It didn't matter, and so he truly is, he's just the best. So,
wow. That's amazing.
What's his name?
Shane.
Shane. Great job.
Good job, Shane.
I have to say, so he said, so when you talk to Mike, let him know when we come to Indiana. He doesn't come very often. We need to see his farm.
I honestly, this whole time you were talking, I'm like, I'm making a trip to New York.
Oh my.
I want to see your farm.
Do farmers want to see each other's farm or something?
That's the whole thing I'm thinking about. She keeps describing it, and I'm like, I want to drive to New York.
Is this a thing? Like,
just to see it.
I want to see your farm just because, you're
just
interested?
love to watch other people's operate. I think it's
because you love what you do, or
I'm
what?
fascinated by how other people do things. I'm fascinated by dairy farms. I'm fascinated by walking onto people, just the way that other people do things. I'm completely fascinated by
because
it.
you want to get better, right? That's what you're.
I think it's just that connection.
It is.
Yep.
It's hard to explain. When you live a farming lifestyle, you can only relate. Those people can only relate with each other. There's something about, when you sit down with a guy that's
farmer
worked on a dairy farm, a guy that's worked with animals mostly.
Yeah.
You have a different connection and understand things that nobody else can understand.
Like what? We just try us. Try everybody that's not a farmer.
I think that part of it is knowing the work that goes into it and the chance of it falling apart in a heartbeat, a fire or something, that could just pull. I think that's a lot of it. I think
you feel connected, you get it.
We know
somebody gets
what
it.
It's like to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning, to do chores, or, when it's snowing and blowing, and we get some snow in New York, and you still have those animals. I don't know. I think it's just that work ethic part of it.
And you're a nurse.
There's a big respect level for me. So as a man towards a guy like Shane, there's a respect, because I know when you have those kinds of animals that one thing that farmers know with animals, you're going to be up every single day because they don't take care of themselves. You're going to be out there and you're going to work through the hard times, and animal farming's never easy. So, it's always a struggle, know, and it's not like you're making these huge financial gains at any point, in it. You do it because of the love. And there's just a respect for guys that know that, getting up every single day, 3:30, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, doing your chores, going to work, doing other things. So that, and just to see it, I'm fascinated how other people do it. I think it's fun to see those things. So.
Is it when he does occasionally come to Indiana, he's probably only out here a couple of times a year. But if Taylor has something going on and we're waiting for her to get done or whatever, we try to find back roads in Indiana. And I don't even know where, how do you find a back road in Indiana?
They're not.
It's 4-lane highways, and then you might take a right. But that's what we do. We'll drive. He just wants to meander. We just meander and look for little farms and drive by. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
When you guys come out next, give me a call. Because so, my wife passed away a couple years ago.
Yes.
So I got remarried.
Yes.
And my wife now, Sarah, her family owns a small dairy. And, so, we should just get together and we can go around.
That was his big thing. He's like, I don't care what else you talk about. He says, I don't care what you tell him, but just make sure you let him know I need to see Mike's farm. And I was like,
so amazing.
Oh
yeah. No, I would love it. It'd be fun to get together and hang out. And
Yep.
yes, when you guys are down next,
awesome.
Get my number and Yeah, we'll hook up and go
Perfect.
driving
He'll
around.
love it.
I'm the same way. Sundays we just meander around.
On
Yeah.
your 4x4?
No, we just get in a
That'd be
vehicle
so
and
much
just go
fun.
driving around and looking at other people's. Because there
On
are
Sundays?
parts of, sometimes in the afternoon after I take a nap.
Gotta take
After
a
I'm
nap.
done preaching,
Gotta
I'm
take
like,
a Sunday nap.
for whatever reason, after I preach, I could work
Yeah.
from 3 a.m. till 8 o'clock at night
It's
on the
different.
farm. And after I'm done preaching, it's the most exhausting thing.
It's mentally.
I have no idea
Yeah.
why that is.
Because you give it all out when you're preaching.
I
That's
don't
why.
know.
It's
But I-
ministry.
Yes. But when it's done,
But times
then we
10.
get up. I mean, sometimes we'll just go driving around because there are some back roads, back places
Really?
in Indiana that aren't just a square mile.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that everything's in a square mile, but no, if you get into some other places, it's rolling hills and you can get into some back stone roads,
Indiana?
onto some mud roads. Yeah.
Huh.
Take you into the Amish country, like
Oh,
over in where
yeah.
I grew up. There's lots of Amish farms and so no, we can go on a
Interesting.
tour.
There you go. Of Indiana.
So did you
Our
get
farm
in?
was actually an Amish farm.
Yeah,
we
that's
thought.
what you said,
Yeah.
which
Wait,
I think is
what?
cool.
Our
but-
farm was an Amish farm. And when we purchased it, so we had to gut the whole house and wire it and plumb it.
Yeah,
And-
get
oh
some
my
wiring and
gosh.
plumbing in
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because they were like straight Amish. Because I know there's some. Well, there's like some that
What
like
is-
can drive cars or some that can work.
They're the non-straight Amish. Those
Yes.
are
You know
probably
what I
more
mean, though?
Mennonites, like Mennonites.
Oh,
and-
okay.
yeah.
So what was the house like?
It was very little, and we've said since day one we purchased the property for the barn and not the house.
Uh-huh.
So
Is that how it normally is? Yeah.
yeah, the house, it was just a basic house. It was really little. We basically kept the same floor plan. We just pulled everything out, and rewired everything. And
Some indoor plumbing.
some indoor plumbing was great. It was fun. So when we finally signed our paperwork, my girls hadn't even seen the inside of the house. We actually had a really hard time getting the Amish out of the house.
What?
Like they wouldn't leave.
And they
For
sold
months.
it to you?
In months. It was their son. And so finally my husband said, it was February and we had signed paperwork before Christmas. And so he had just said, I have a dumpster showing up Monday morning and you can stay if you want to stay, but we're going to start ripping out walls.
Yeah.
And they
Oh,
left.
wow.
And I was like, goodness gracious, we should have done that 2 months ago. That sounds terrible. But I was like, we just want to get started
Wow,
on this house.
yeah.
Because at that time, then we had 2 mortgages. We were paying on our home
Yeah.
downtown. We were
Oh,
paying on
my.
the farm.
Yeah.
So we took possession finally on a Friday and we took our girls in so they could see the inside of the house. And Shane, we'd already had an electric pole set by the electric company, and so he run wires to the electric pole so that we had flood lamps in there.
Wow.
And he hooked up a propane furnace and just run the propane wires out the window and
Yeah.
hooked it to a propane tank. And then that Saturday night, we had a little get together with a bunch of our friends and their kids. And, they wrote on the walls and they
Mm,
Yeah.
started pulling them apart. So,
yeah.
yeah.
How fun.
But
Was there any thing cool that was unusual for us that you saw in the house? Like any contraption or secret door? Or,
I think the only
don't
thing that
know.
I would say stuck out is they can their hamburger, and that just grossed me out.
Ew.
It just looked terrible. Yeah, so there were some cans, but no, nothing really.
Canned it in the fridge
No,
like a
canned
canning,
it.
like a jar, like a
and left
canning
it out normally? Like
on
Yeah,
a
it's just
shelf,
like you do
would
with chicken. You can
vegetables or-
can chicken.
raw?
Yeah.
No, you
You
cook
cook
it.
it.
And can it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. It just looked weird, and so, but no, they didn't really leave much behind when they left. They finally just took everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've built it up since then. We've added a great room, and my husband built a new shop, so it's kind
Look
of
at that, and he's handy.
Yeah.
He is handy. He's the handiest guy. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're
The
just so
handiest
excited
guy.
to meet him.
Oh, I know.
To have a farm date, you all.
Well, I mean, and when we bought the house, when people come and look at the house now where Sarah and I live, they're like, well, what made you decide to buy this? I'm like, the barns. I mean, the house is the house to me, but
Yeah.
having 2 50 by 150 foot barns are
Whoa.
like, yeah.
Yeah,
Two of them?
That's why
There's 2 of them.
Whoa.
we purchased, and we have the best view, I think, in Allegheny County. But like the top of our hayfield, we can actually see 2 towns over. That's where my daughter's wedding was
Wow.
at. You can just see forever. As a matter of fact, where her wedding was at for my birthday this year, Kaylin, my oldest daughter, had found this lady that she hand paints on the cover of Bibles. And so she
Wow.
painted the view of our farm from where she got married.
Wow.
That's
The cover of this
awesome.
Bible. And it's beautiful.
Wow.
That's cool.
It's really a
That's
pretty
neat.
place. But
Yeah, good.
All
Any
right.
questions?
Question time. Yes.
these are what made me nervous.
All right. From Emily Miller. Since she lives on a beef farm, in her opinion, what is the best cut of steak?
So probably unpopular opinion. I'm not a big steak girl. I'd much rather have a good burger.
There you go.
I feel you.
Yep.
I feel you.
Yes. Yeah, I don't like steak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe strip steak. It would be if I had to choose, but I'm more of a burger gal.
Cheeseburger.
I like cheeseburger. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Favorite burger place?
home.
What? Like
Home.
home? Oh,
Home
like
cooking.
your house? Oh,
Yeah.
got you. Okay.
That's
we
me.
very rarely eat beef if we're out and about.
Really?
Yeah.
Does
Very
it
rare.
taste bad?
Just different.
How does McDonald's taste to you?
I don't eat
What
it.
about Wendy's?
No.
If you were going to eat out at a burger place, which one would you choose?
I would probably choose McDonald's only because I would eat their chicken sandwich.
No, you have to eat a burger. You have to eat a
No,
burger.
she's
Remember, I
saying
don't
I'm
even
not
think-
eating beef
I can't
somewhere
tell
else.
you. I can't tell you if I've ever or when if
The
or
last
if
time.
I've ever had a hamburger at McDonald's.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just different. And now that we've raised our own chicken, you can feel like you can just taste the difference.
Oh, I bet.
So,
I bet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once you eat your own food, it's when you go out to eat, there's no comparison.
yep.
None.
It's
Wow.
you're just always a little disappointed. It could be good, I'm sure every place is good. You're just a little bit like
Really?
it's not quite as good as home.
Well, plus there's something about like this is something I raised, killed, and eating.
Yes.
I mean, that's the other part of it.
Well, that's cool.
And my
that you
Kaylin
feel
is
that
a
way.
huge gardener too, so he has a huge garden. And so a lot of our vegetables, we'll can.
Wow.
come
Yeah,
from her
see, I want to
garden.
go more now.
Yeah, you do.
She
Like the homesteaders in New York.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Most people are going to envision like high rises, but
Yeah.
All right, Tammy Dennis. What does she love about being a girl mom?
what do I love about being a girl mom?
What do you love about being a girl mom?
I love the fact that not only do I only have two girls, they're two completely different girls. And so I kind of have the best of both worlds. Kaylin has always grown up. She's our farm girl. She's our she'll never leave the farm. She loves that place. And that girl has a heart of gold. And she will do anything for anybody. But she's also our biggest tomboy, and she loves to hunt and she loves to fish. She's not opposed to harvesting our own animals. And then and Taylor is not, I don't want to say she's her polar opposite because she's not, she loves to be outside. She's not your girly girl who cares about getting muddy, but she does like to dress up and she does like to do, the fancy clothes and the hair. And Taylor too, like once she loves you hard. She's very hard. She's a hard shell to crack.
But an unbreakable one once you do.
And she will stand up to you for you until the end of this world.
That's awesome.
Just, but she'll call you out if you're wrong too.
Yeah.
She doesn't
That's a
care.
good thing.
Yeah, that's the red hair in her.
We always wondered why she.
No,
has,
that was Taylor, right? Taylor has red
the
hair?
one- Taylor's
Yeah.
with the red hair.
Yeah.
She's the HU student. We always said, I don't know why you have so many friends, Taylor, because you are brutal.
Wow.
Honestly brutal. And it's, she's usually not off target either. But
Yeah.
it's just the things that we don't usually want to say out loud that she'll call you out on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blunt.
So
yeah.
yes, that's totally typical. So that's what I love. I love the fact that, I have those moments and I like that they come to me for things, just simple things. Kaylin, now that she has a little girl, we'll call. She called yesterday morning before church, Sunday morning before church. And she was like, we went to a birthday party last night and I let Evelyn play on a blanket by herself while Kyle and I were playing cornhole. And now I feel bad. Like, was I leaving her out, So
Yeah.
she's just such a caring girl. So yeah.
Wow.
Good.
All right. From Karen Bennett, she says, assuming that she joins online, does she find local ways for fellowship with other believers? And does she feel a family connection to Life Church?
Yeah, so she already answered that.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, last one. And it is Gina Van Meter. She says, welcome to the podcast. I see you're a Nana also. Second best title in life. Child of God is always first. Enjoy the podcast.
Yeah.
And those are our questions.
Well, hold on a second.
What? Do you have a gift?
She brought us a gift.
Who did? You did?
I did.
You brought us a
little
gift?
New York gift. Yes.
What is it?
Oh, she can explain it.
Oh, yum.
This is
Yes.
what she got for us.
Oh my gosh,
So-
is that
oh,
strawberry
starting to-
poppy seed?
No.
Strawberry sauce?
Let her explain.
Okay. Oh, it looks like strawberries. They're not strawberries. Never mind.
No, they're jalapeno peppers.
Oh, complete opposite.
So yeah, so this is called. So I wanted to bring something a little original to not only New York, but to where local where I'm from. So I grew up in
Yes.
Cuba, New York, which is just the next town over. I live in Friendship currently. And it's called spunky sauce. And
Spunky sauce.
yes, it's a little bit hot, but it's like a hot, creamy. It's hard to explain. There's a festival in Cuba called the Garlic Festival. And so when you participate as a vendor, you need something to do with garlic there.
The
and
Garlic Festival.
This,
Yeah. So now we got, what's it called?
it's called the original spunky sauce.
The spunky
The
sauce. And we got
spunky
3
sauce.
bottles to share. So
So-
the 3 of us, she brought us a gift from New York.
Ooh, thank you.
Yeah, so now we all
So
get
what do you
it.
suggest that we put it on? What's your
Everything.
favorite thing?
Everything.
But
French
what's your
fries.
favorite?
Like
French
homemade
fries?
French fries. Yeah.
Yes.
Like to dip your fries.
She said, can't eat French fries.
Why?
Because I'm on the fatty diet, remember?
Oh, that sucks.
Hamburgers.
I'm only eating meat right
Put
now.
it on a baked potato.
I can't eat.
Yes. Oh.
I can't eat carbs.
Put it on a steak then.
That's what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna
Well,
eat.
that's probably carbs.
Huh?
That's probably carbs.
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
Sauces
we can't
don't
talk
matter.
about
Yes.
it. Yes, just
Yeah.
sauce.
So, but yeah, so he made it for that, and it kind of grew up for him from there. And
Wow.
a funny story: when my Kaylin showed at our local county fair, which last night we went to the Wabash County Fair.
Yeah.
It's really little. Like I was anticipating something bigger, but it's like the size of our little fair. So I felt like we were home a
Aw.
little bit.
Yeah.
But
Were you there last night?
I was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so was I.
Were you?
Yeah, we went
Aw,
there
you guys
last
missed
night.
each other.
So our big thing to do fair week at our fair was Kaylin showed all week, and horse shows were over on Friday. So Saturdays, of course, we weren't allowed to take our horses until the whole fair was open. I don't know how some of them work, but
Mhm.
so Saturday is usually the biggest day at the fair because it's a demolition derby, and you
Yep.
see all kinds. And so we would get French fries and little bowls of spunky sauce before they sold it in the stores, and we would just sit outside our horse stalls and watch
Aw.
people
Awesome.
watch.
Yeah, tonight's
So-
the rodeo. That's what I'm going to tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In Wabash at the fair. Wear my cowboy hat and feel like a cowboy. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
will just have the time of your life.
No, I love it.
You're excited.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
I mean-
fun. We just drove out after Taylor got out of work, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Aw.
So
Yes.
yes.
Well, thank you again. Thanks
Yes.
for making time again. Thanks for broadening our horizons. I mean, giving us an opportunity to get a view into like church online and what's going on with your family and just everything, that you guys are doing there. And we'll continue to pray that we can be helpful, to you guys through online. We thank you for being a campus pastor and being a part of,
Absolutely.
again, helping us understand how to continue to get the word out, do the best we can to support community and the furthering of Jesus Christ and his name and,
Yeah.
things out there. So thanks for being on. And we just thank you for time. Thanks for the
sure.
gift.
Yes.
I hope you guys
spunky
like it. I hope you guys
sauce.
like it.
And
It's great.
Shane, when you're out here,
Yep.
look me up. We got to go driving around for a while.
Yeah.
Our wives can hang out and we'll go drive around looking at farms.
Sure.
the whole
He'd
time.
love it.
So,
He would
yeah,
love it.
Good. Well, again, give the
Yeah. Okay. So the texting that we just did, the questions that I just asked were from our texting group. And we send out a text each week that has the person that's going to be on the podcast. And we basically have a bio for them. And we want you to come up with questions. So we do this every week. And if you are not on it, then we want you to go ahead and text podcast to 260-408-8383. And if you are on it, thank you so much for sending us questions each week. That's so amazing.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, text podcast.
All right. So again, when Jenny puts this out on Thursday, make sure you like, share. If you guys are online, again,
Yeah.
reach out and say hi. And
Yes,
now
that'd
you
be
can
great.
put a face with a name. And again, make sure that you share, this out there with people. Comment, go on our YouTube. We'd love to have feedback there. But again, so thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.